Hey, this is Dr. Eric Fields. I've talked about in the past the tendency for so many of us to engage in this all or nothing thinking. And I really wanted to expand on that today because it's just such an important issue to address. First off, let me just say, I've been working with people with addiction, various types of dependencies, compulsions, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't know why people with these types of dependency issues tend to have this all or nothing thinking. I certainly could speculate about it, and maybe at a later time I can present you with the theory. But what's more important is just to acknowledge that it is really common for so many of us with different kinds of dependency issues to have this all or nothing thinking. And we talked about how the all or nothing thinking can easily lead to excessive calorie consumption in the form, especially of binge eating, right? So, in other words, you have an eating plan, and then all of a sudden you feel like you broke the rule because you went off the eating plan. And then, therefore, you conclude, I blew it, I'm done, that's it, forget it, and I'm going to have an all out binge episode. And there's no shades of gray, there's no degrees. It's either one extreme to the next. The other problem with all or nothing thinking is the way we set ourselves up for success, or rather to not be successful. And what I mean by that is you don't want to have this plan that is going to be way too difficult to follow and is just too intense or too drastic, too extreme. A lot of times people have, these good intentions like, hey, I'm going to get myself on a weight loss plan and I'm going to fast 2 times a week and I'm going to run 5 miles a day and I'm only going to eat 1,000 calories per day and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. I'm hiring a personal trainer and, you know, I'm never having sweets. When you set yourself up with a plan that's too drastic, it's like you're destined to fail. It's just way too much to go from, you know, this place where you haven't made any real changes for a long, long time in terms of a weight loss plan or weight loss goals to this extreme where, you're totally depriving yourself on a day-to-day basis. And then on top of it, you have this rigorous exercise plan. It's just too much. And again, it is a product of this all or nothing thinking. Either I'm not doing anything, I'm not doing, nothing about my problem, or I'm doing everything about my problem. And I'm going to, do this all out intense plan to really make some changes. It's really problematic and sets us up for failure. The other way that all or nothing thinking can really interfere with our progress is, let's say you're on a weight loss plan and you're starting to lose weight and a month into it you're doing great. It's a plan that has those two key aspects that I emphasize all the time. It's something you can stick with and it's actually working. And then all of a sudden you get injured. Maybe you get injured during your exercise routine or injured elsewhere. And rather than saying, okay, I've been doing really great on this plan. I've been losing 2 pounds a week. It's been working great. Now I've injured myself, so I may not be able to exercise to the intensity that I was, or the type of exercise I was doing, or maybe I won't be able to exercise at all. And rather than saying, okay, but I still have this food plan that's working really well, and, maybe I just need a mental adjustment in terms of my expectations. Like, okay, I won't be losing maybe 2 pounds a week, but I'll still be probably losing 1 pound a week. And, maybe it's like, let's look at my eating plan. Maybe I can make certain tweaks there to make the deficit a little bit greater, with that end of the equation. Or can I work around the injury? Are there other exercises that I can do so that I can keep up some kind of physical activity? Unfortunately, too often, what we do whenever there's an obstacle is we say, forget it, I'm done with it, that's it. And it's so irrational because, one obstacle that certainly could be worked around or worked with leads to this determination that I failed and the plan is no longer going to be able to be maintained. And if it can't be maintained the exact same way that I wanted it to be, then I'm done. It's this really rigid and flexible kind of thinking that's really, really problematic. So, what I really want you to think about is looking at things in what we call shades of gray or degree. One thing's for certain, if you have a goal, a long-term goal that may not be able to be fully achieved until 6 months or a year, let's say you have like 50, 60 plus pounds to lose, having a goal that far into the future and thus having to be on a plan for that amount of time, the probability of crap happening to try to derail you from your progress, it just goes up, exponentially. When you're trying to plan something 2 weeks in advance, like a birthday party or a special event, the chance that something will go wrong, that's in 2 weeks. So if you're planning to lose a ton of weight by the end of a year, say, that's a year of possible things going wrong. And one thing we know as human beings is that life is definitely going to throw us curveballs and is going to try to derail us. If we don't set ourselves up in that kind of mental frame to expect that curveballs are going to be thrown at us and life is going to try to derail us, unexpected stressors and negative life events are bound to happen, then we're setting ourselves up for failure. If we think that we're going to get through the year without any challenges, or that, I need a year with no challenges in order to be successful, it's never going to happen. So you have to expect that. It'd be great if you could embrace that reality, but if you could at least expect it in the sense that I know it's probably going to happen, and I'm going to deal with it when it happens. The main difference between people who are successful from people who are not successful, I'm talking about any endeavor in life, the main difference is persistence and problem solving, the two P's. People who are successful get derailed from their goal path many times. But the difference between them and people who are unsuccessful is they persist in spite of it. They persist in spite of these obstacles. They tell themselves, here it is, here's something that's trying to derail me, or here is, if you want to call it a failure or disappointment that happened along the way, I'm going to reframe it. I'm not going to look at it as a failure. I'm going to look at it as a temporary departure from my goal path. And we talked about neurolinguistics the other day and the power of language. So even like reframing or, using a different word, such as failure, which really has such a negative connotation, and calling it a derailment, right? Or departure, right? That sounds a lot more temporary, right? It's a temporary departure, temporary derailment from our course, meaning we can get back on that path. That's super important. So people who are successful, that's how they view disappointments, that derail them temporarily from their goal path. And, you know, they stay in this mindset that I'm going to reach that goal. It is not going to be a straight path forward. It's going to be, a windy path as I try to circumnavigate different obstacles, but I'm going to get there. This path is still leading to the goal. It might not be a straight line in the sense that it's going to be the most efficient path, because we can't have a totally efficient path. We can't have a path that just goes from A to B in a straight line. It's going to be zigzagging and winding up and down and all around, because there's going to be these temporary departures from our goal path, derailments because of life and different things that are going to pop up. So having this mindset that I'm going to persist in spite of this, I know it's going to happen, and I'm still going to stay on the course. I'm still going to get myself back on the course, and still going to be plowing forward towards my goal as best as I can, is super important. And then when that does happen, to go into problem solving mode, right? People that have dependency issues, addictions, compulsions, they often have a case of what I call the efforts. Effort, that's it, it didn't work out. This problem happened. I expected it to be perfect. I expected this trajectory or this path to go smoothly, and it didn't. So now F it. And that's this all or nothing thinking. Rather than saying F it, say, okay, here's a problem that's trying to derail me permanently. It has temporarily, but now what do I do about that? If you can get in that mindset where you are going to persist regardless of what life throws at you, and when an obstacle does come your way, you can go into problem solving mode and really figure out a way around these problems as they come up, because they will, especially if you have a long-term goal that's months and months in advance of being achieved, you're going to be successful. And that is the key difference between unsuccessful and successful people in any life endeavor. This is Dr. Fields, and I'll talk to you soon.